Welcome to Biztech's CEO Conversation Show. Today's show features the CEO of the Philippine Telegraph and Telephone Corporation, PT&T. Philippine Telegraph and Telephone Corporation is one of the largest telecommunication service providers in the Philippines since its founding in 1962. It is listed on the Philippine Stock Exchange. Now, to tell us more about the business and how it has evolved, we have James Velasquez. He's the President and Chief Executive Officer of PT&T. Now, James, welcome to the show and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me. Let me just correct you a little bit. We were once the largest, and back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when PT&T was providing telegraph services, paging services, and so on. But they were one of the casualties of the Asian financial crisis. My job when I joined the PT&T in early 2018 was really to revive the company. And that is what we have been doing for the past 5 years or so. To give you a background on PT&T, as you mentioned, we've been around more than 60 years. We were the leader in terms of telegraph services, data services even at that time. And we were also the leader when it comes to paging services. Of course, the mobile evolution and so on took its toll on the business, plus, of course, the Asian financial crisis. But what we have been doing since 2018 was to, I would say, not just to revitalize the company, but redefine what we're doing. So from a company that does telecom services, we now consider ourselves a digital service provider. So we provide internet services, connectivity via fiber network, roughly about 26,000 fiber kilometers across Metro Manila and the Calabarzon area. And we also have presence in other parts of the country. We have been around for quite some time, as I've mentioned, but we're also getting into IT services. So we've introduced IT services in 2019, and since the introduction of IT services, we have been getting a lot of good reviews and feedback from our clients in terms of our ability to deliver digital services.
And James, and looking from the research that I've done, your business, you categorize it broadly now into two major categories, right? It's connectivity and IT services. Walk us through how, as you blend all of these together under an umbrella of product and services, how you really help your customers. What are some of the services that you offer them?
Very good question. So I come from an IT background. I spent over 30 years with IBM, close to 30 years rather. And I've not just been in IBM Philippines, but also in IBM Asia Pacific. So I've seen the importance of digital transformation in IT. And I also see the importance of connectivity. So in PT&T, we're essentially looking at how both can actually serve the needs of our clients. So we don't want to just give them connectivity for the sake of connectivity, but rather allow them the ability to take advantage of what connectivity offers. In this digital age, it's really about being able to connect to their clients as well. So we help them with the infrastructure that they need so that they can actually deliver the services that they need to deliver to their clients, whether they're a public sector, a school, or an SME. We look at business continuity because that's important. We want to make sure that our clients are not just able to survive a pandemic, but also situations where they have to make sure that their connectivity, or rather their business continuity, is in place to manage those situations. Productivity tools are some of the things that we also help our clients with. Cybersecurity, quite important in this day and age. And also digitization. So a lot of our clients are now migrating their systems or their documentation from the analog version or the paper version to something that's more digital and being able to wrap that in their systems to be able to serve their clients better. In some cases, we also help with application development. But really, Brian, it's all around the infrastructure, cybersecurity, and business continuity.
So, James, as you mentioned earlier in the interview, as at the start, really you were brought in to transform this legacy business and really bring it and make it relevant today. How has that journey been so far, and how have you been able to move the needle?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And I still get that question up until now. So, and I would say when I accepted the role, it was eyes wide open. So I knew what I was getting into. And there were really three things that we wanted to do. One is, of course, revitalization, which includes completing the rehabilitation plan. Our rehabilitation plan runs until April of 2025. So we still have barely a year left. But we've already completed close to 90% of what the rehabilitation court required us to do. So that's a significant milestone. So the other 10%, we can certainly get it done in a few months. The other thing we have to do is to grow the business profitably. So when I took over, the business was hardly in existence, and we had to make sure that we can grow the business and we can grow it profitably. And the third, which is related to the second point, is we also needed to attract new investors, right? So, and I can tell you, doing all those three things at the same time
It's tough.
quite the enormous task, not just for me, but for my team. So we had to make sure that everyone had the mindset that, look, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure we address the rehabilitation plan. We have to make sure that we grow the business and we stay relevant to our clients. At the same time, we'll go out there and ask for new investors, seek new investors. I'm happy to say that we've actually signed up with a large European investment banker. I'm under NDA, so I cannot tell you, but it's a significant milestone for the company when we signed up with them. And they're really helping us now secure the funding that will help the sustain the future growth of this company, and of course, expand its relevance in the business.
James, I want to drill down in terms of rehabilitation plan, because obviously now you have the benefit of hindsight. When you were drawing up that original plan with your team, what were the key things that you were looking at in order to make sure that you were going to be successful? Because as you said, now you're 1 year away only from the termination, but you've already achieved 90%. That's going to happen, your rehabilitation plan. So for the leaders who are watching this show, I think if you could share what were the things you identified that were important, some of the lessons that you learned, perhaps now looking back, what you did right, what you did wrong.
We did a lot of things right, but we also had some setbacks. So I think what's key in execution of a rehabilitation plan is really a full understanding on what it is, right? What is meant by the rehabilitation plan and how we can go about doing the execution of that. So that was very important. And we were very clear, my team, our lawyers are very clear, and more importantly, the shareholders, the stakeholders of the company in terms of what would it take. And a big part of that is really the debt to equity conversion. And we've been working on that for the past several years. Of course, we had a pandemic, and there was some impact in terms of how fast things were happening during the pandemic. But we still managed to convert close to 9 billion Philippine pesos of debt to equity. So that was a major milestone for us, and that was approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission late last year. So to answer your question, I think it's really a clear understanding on what the requirements are, working closely with your rehab receiver in terms of what is required of us, and make sure that all the stakeholders are aware in terms of what is required. More importantly, I would say also the people that's tasked to do that, they need to have a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance as well.
And I was just going to ask you about that, and you took the words out of my mouth. People were probably one of the biggest challenges that you had, because you basically took over a legacy business which you had to transform. So how did that people process happen? Because obviously some of the people could be retooled, some couldn't, and you had to bring in fresh faces as well.
We had to bring a lot of fresh faces. So um, I think it was a big step for me to join. So, and I credit that to the owners of the company for convincing me that this is a good venture to do, and something that's different, and something that will help a lot of people as well, not just the employees of the company, but former employees, and of course the creditors, getting them also part of the solution is getting them on board and making sure that they see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So that was very important. Now, translating that to a new set of people to join the company, you definitely have to have a clear vision of how you're going to get out of rehab, right? How you're going to get out of this rut that the company was into, and convince them that you can actually grow the business, right? So, and the third point that I mentioned, how do you actually convince them that we will get new investors? Even if we're in this situation, we will get new investors. So getting the right set of people is important. So when I selected my head of HR, or what we call people and culture, I made it clear to her that, look, we're going to get people to join us. You have to make sure that they're clear that it requires a lot of perseverance. I have a lot of patience, so and I persevere, and I do all of those things. But we need everyone to have the same mindset. So the culture that we're trying to set up in PT&T is one of we call it Puso Tibay Tagumpay, which is PT&T. When I say puso, it means heart. When I say tibay, it means character or strength of character. And then, of course, tagumpay is success. So we wanted to make sure that the people understands that, look, it's going to take a lot from you to join us, but the rewards will be there when we're able to achieve our key milestones in terms of our growth, our exit from rehab, and of course, getting new investors to come in.
So James, to give us a perspective in terms of numbers, where were you at the start of your journey, and where are you at today in terms of numbers, growth, top line, bottom line?
Yeah, probably I'll just give you percentages.
Yes.
When we started, I would say the business is really low, right? But for the past 5 years, we've seen compounded annual growth rate of close to 40%. And from the start, I would say the growth is north of 200%, right? Growth from where we started. Our core EBITDA has also been growing at a steady state. We have core EBITDA margin of close to 22%. And in very steady fashion, we have been able to grow our business substantially. IT services, non-existent before, we now have a business that's also growing substantially, and contributing probably about 15% of the business. We still have some way to go in terms of our financial performance, and that's why it's important to have new investors to come in, because we want to build more facilities that will cover more areas in the Philippine side as far as offering our services.
And with that in mind, next question really has to be, where are the opportunities that you are seeing right now in the Philippines?
There's still a lot of opportunity, I would say. In the connectivity space, the Philippines have more than 7,000 islands. Our penetration for broadband, I think it's still somewhere around 20 to 25%. The numbers may have improved. And that's on the fixed broadband or fiber footprint. So we can still see a lot of improvements for us gaining share in the fixed broadband business, particularly wired business. We also see the opportunity on the satellite broadband, or things like what's being offered now in the market as far as high-speed satellite services. But very promising is the digital transformation requirements of businesses. whether you're in the SME space, large enterprise, or government, public sector. It's already something that's apparent for Philippine companies or Philippine-based organizations that you have to transform your business to be able to get to your clients or constituents or your customers to be able to deliver better services. So we're seeing a lot of opportunity in that space as far as offering digital transformation services.
Now, as part of the digital transformation services, James, companies like yourself, a lot of companies in the region in particular are betting on setting up data centers to take advantage of not only cloud computing, but the opportunities around AI. What is your strategy around that?
I think it's something that you have to embrace, whether it's part of your business. You have to be able to understand how you can inject AI into your business. Because if you don't, then your competitors will do that, and they'll probably do much better in terms of being able to serve clients. So we're already looking at how that will affect our business and what are the things that we can do on the productivity side. We're also embracing some tools that can allow us to be more productive in terms of how we operate, right? So there are AI tools that's embedded already in productivity tools that we're already using right now. So it's important. AI is important, and it's really understanding where you can use that in your business.
Now, James, you're just about to exit your rehab plan successfully. You have raised money. What's next for PT&T moving forward?
Well, I think it's important that we continue to focus on growth and to focus on what are the things that are important for our clients. We also want to go back into the residential space, and we're looking at doing that maybe in a different shape and form when we launch that. But we're looking at those areas in terms of how we can expand our business. We do think that PT&T, being one of the legacy telcos in the Philippines, once fully revived, once we have all the investment to come in, we know that we can be relevant again in the business and serve more Filipinos, no? And be able to help as far as nation building is concerned as well.
James, it's been a fascinating and educational conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has as well. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
That's a very good question. And for me, I think it's important that you really have a team that's behind you. Your team is also fully set as far as what the directions are, because if not, you'll be frustrated. So it's important for you to make sure that the people that you hire in the business share the same vision that you have, and that they'll be with you along the way in terms of delivering that the execution of that strategy. So people is the people aspect of strategy is very important.
James, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, we've been speaking to James Velasquez. He's the President and Chief Executive Officer of PT&T out of the Philippines. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to Biztech's CEO Conversation Show. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, third-party websites, and third-party applications. Thanks a lot for tuning in.